In this video, I wanted to see if I could beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokémon Diamond blindfolded. You heard me right, in this video I wanted to see if a hardcore Nuzlocke was possible without being able to see. This challenge is not going to be easy because under my hardcore Nuzlocke rule set, if a Pokémon faints, it's considered dead and must be released. I can also only catch the first encounter in each area. The rest of the rules are on screen now and in the description. Now, I'm pretty sure doing a blindfolded hardcore Nuzlocke would actually be impossible if I didn't allow myself to see sometimes, so I've decided that Pokémon centers are a kind of safe zone where I'm allowed to remove my blindfold. Let's jump right in then and see if it's actually possible to beat a hardcore Nuzlocke while blindfolded. So first up, after some initial difficulty navigating my way to Lake Verity, we get to pick our starter. Luckily, all three of these starters make pretty distinct noises, so I'm able to pick the one I want, and I decide on Abel the Chimchar. I'm then able to get through the tutorial, while only being slightly confused at why my mum's dialogue doesn't seem to be ending. It's then time to catch our early game encounters, and for the first time on this channel, I'm going to be playing without Dupe's Claws. This means I'm going to be able to catch multiple of the same Pokemon, and my reasoning for this is simply I can't see what I'm catching, so playing with Dupe's Claws wouldn't really work. So with that in mind, I find my first encounter of the run, a Starly I name Neo. I then backtrack slightly to find our second encounter, a Bidoof I name Mater. I'm sure these will be the only Bidoofs and Starlies I catch on this run. It's not like Diamond and Pearl are known for having the same encounters in every area. It's then a quick trip to Jubilife City where I run into my first real navigational challenge of this run, finding these three arsehole clowns. You wouldn't think this would be that hard, but it's actually really easy to lose track of where I am, and then it becomes a nightmare of trying to make my way back to the Pokémon Center to reset my position. This turns into such a problem that once I eventually find all three of these clowns and get given the Poketch, I decide to give myself a get out of jail 3 card. I give myself an Abra with the move Teleport, just so if I get completely lost, I can reset myself by teleporting back to a Pokémon Center. It's then time for a quick rival battle that isn't super difficult before carrying on with finding encounters. En route to Thor, I find yet another Starly. Abby isn't exactly the most exciting find in the world, but honestly having a few birds with Intimidate probably isn't a bad thing. I did just kind of jinx myself though, because of course en route to 03, I find yet another Starly. This one I name Q. Thinking about it, no Dupe's Claws in a game known for having the same 4 Pokemon on every route might have been a mistake. Oh well, no going back now. At least my next encounter isn't another bird, because inside Allbird Gate, I'm able to catch a Zubat I name X. Then on route 207, I'm able to catch a Machop I name Pop, and then in Allberg Mine, I'm able to catch a Geodude I name Pog. Finally, I'm able to evolve Abel into Monferno before it's time to tackle our first gym battle of the run. So it's time for our first gym battle against Rourke. Geodude goes down to a single low kick, and then Rourke sends out his only really scary Pokemon, Cranidos. Instead of getting off a headbutt though, that could do some real damage, Cranidos just goes through a Leer. That means Pop is completely free to get off another low kick for a second KO. That just leaves Onix, who falls to another low kick. Nice easy first gym fight to start us off, only going to get more difficult from here though. Before we carry on with the rest of this journey then, I would like to say quickly, remember to leave a like if you enjoy the video, and if you want to see more unique Nuzlocke ideas like this in the future, subscribe so you never miss a video. Oh, and I've also got channel memberships available if you really want to go out of your way to support a smaller creator. No pressure though, on with the run. With our new level cap of 22, I'm able to evolve Mater into B-Barrel, and then my 3 birds into Staraviours. I'm then able to fight my way to Mars, and this fight is the first battle of the run that is more complex than just spamming one move. Let's hope this goes well then, as Mars starts with Zubat and I start with Neo. Zubat survives a wing attack and then gets off a Toxic, but I prepared for this by giving my bird a Peachy Berry that heals the poison. A second wing attack then takes down the bat. Then Big the Cat comes out, and thanks to having more than one bird, I'm able to switch a couple of times through Intimidate attack drops. It's then a simple case of sending out Pop, and then KOing with 2 Rock Smashes. Honestly, that wasn't super bad, was slightly nervous about being able to navigate the switching menu, but managed that pretty well. As a reward for getting through that fight, right outside I'm able to catch another Pokemon. I find a Pachirisu I name Yu. Pachirisus tend to be fairly bad, but I'm not going to complain about finding an electric type. It's then a long trek through Eternia Forest, but it's not actually as difficult to navigate as you'd think. What does prove to be an issue is this gym puzzle, however. Shockingly, playing hide and seek is fairly difficult blindfolded. This puzzle actually takes more time than I care to admit. Thankfully, once we're through though, we're able to evolve X into Golbat, and Golbat makes this gym a complete cakewalk as he's able to KO all of Gardenia's Pokémon with wing attacks. Honestly, didn't expect the hide and seek gym puzzle to be the most difficult part of this run so far, but hey, it's a learning experience. With our second gym battle won then, we're able to evolve a couple more of our Pokémon thanks to our new level cap. Before we can carry on towards our next gym battle though, we do have to take down another Galactic admin. Thankfully, Jupiter is actually even easier than Mars though, so after she's defeated, it's time for a very long trek towards Thalestone, and we actually only get one more notable encounter along the way. On Route 206, I find a Ponyta I name Question Mark. Question Mark doesn't evolve until the crazy high level of 40, so he'll be being benched for now, but eventually I won't say no to a second fire type. I can then make my way through Hearthome and Salacion Town before finally arriving at Thalestone. Unfortunately though, this is where my next major roadblock of the run awaits. No, not the gym fight, but instead once again, my main problem is the gym puzzle. So this one is such a pain in the ass, I come up with a slightly different strategy to get through it. By looking at a map of this gym on Google, I can work out the exact button presses I need to beat this puzzle. I then write all of these button presses into a Google document, and then have the Google document read the button presses to me as I play.
Right 3. Up until bump. Right 1.
Honestly, this might be the most work I've ever put into a Pokemon gym puzzle, but at least I now have a method for getting through any of the more tricky parts of the overworld during this run. So with my Word document leading me through, eventually I'm able to reach Maylene and her fighting types, and like the last gym, amusingly, the gym puzzle was much more difficult than the gym fight. X is able to wall every single one of Maylene's Pokemon, and eventually take them all down with wing attacks. Third gym down, unfortunately that's going to be the last easy gym fight for a while. At least before we get down to Pastoria, I am able to catch a couple more use the encounters. Firstly, outside of Valor Lakefront, I'm able to catch a Girafarig I name Moy. I've never really used a Girafarig before, but it's a pretty unique encounter, so I'm excited to see what he can do. Unfortunately though, because this stupid giraffe refuses to stay in a Pokeball, and I can't see how much HP my Pokemon has, I do lose one of my birds while trying to catch this stupid thing. Rest in peace, Q. I would probably be more upset if I didn't have two other birds immediately to replace you with. Next, on Route 213, I'm able to find everybody's favourite seabird, a Wingull I name Moore. That just leaves one more encounter, a Quagsire I find in the Great Marsh. I am disappointed Quagsire isn't trying to give me a hug like in other games, but nope, it's still a pretty decent encounter. Then I'm able to use my Word document skills to make it through Pastoria's gym, meaning it's time to take down Crash Awake. This is definitely going to be the most difficult gym fight of the run so far, because I can't just spam one move to win, and I really don't have any counters to Wake's team. Let's hope this goes well then. So Wake starts with Gyarados, and I start with Yu. I start the fight with a discharge that annoyingly misses the KO. Luckily Gyarados only hits back with a weak brine that doesn't really do a lot. Two more discharges are then enough to take down the Gyarados. Second is Quagsire, and I try to switch out into my bird to avoid the mud bomb that I know is about to come my way, but unfortunately I make my first major mistake of the run, and instead of switching, I accidentally end up going through a discharge that costs me Yu's life. Rest in peace, buddy, you deserve better. I then make another mistake and then send in Neo instead of switching straight into Abel. Thankfully this second mistake doesn't get punished because Quagsire only goes for a Mud Sport as I switch into Abel. A single Grass Knot is then enough to take down the Quagsire. Last the wake then is Slow's Tail, and this thing is really threatening. Because of how scary that weasel is, I decide to start intimidating by switching into Neo. I then switch Neo out for Mater and take a weak pursuit. Thanks to that Intimidate, Meta is able to take a couple of hits before putting the Flow's tail to sleep with Yawn. I can then spam headbutts for the win. Made a bit of the mess of that fight, but thankfully we only lost one Pokemon, and that means we've won our 4th gym fight of the run. Now we've got a little bit to do before we can backtrack and battle Fantina in Hearthome, but that shouldn't be too difficult because with our new level cap of 36, we're able to evolve some of our Pokemon into their powerful final forms. It's then a long walk to Celestic Town, but eventually we're able to make it and grab the HM for Surf. I then have to deal with one of the biggest challenges I've ever faced in a Pokemon game, maths. Thankfully, unlike the last 2 gyms, even if I can't see the maths, I can just brute force my way through this gym to get to the gym leader. Unfortunately, with no real counters for Fantina's team, this is most likely going to be one of the hardest boss fights of the run so far, so let's jump in. Fantina starts with Drifblimp, and I start with Pog. Drifblimp starts setting up double teams, but my boulder pushes through and lands a really strong rock throw. Annoyingly, Pog then misses the next 2 rock throws, which should have cost him his life. Being blindfolded means I don't even know how lucky I just got though, as Drifblimp goes through a gust instead of Ominous Wind, allowing Pog to take down the blimp. Now, even blindfolded, I know that Fantina will send out Miss Magius here because it has Magical Leaf. That means I'm safe to switch into Neo, and after taking a couple of attacks, my bird KOs with Aerial Aces. That just leaves Gengar, who is easily taken down by Psybeams from Moi. With that, we've won our 5th gym badge. Honestly, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's actually then no time at all before our next gym fight against Byron, and shockingly, even when I can't see, this fight is literally never difficult. Nope does struggle a bit to take down the Bronzor with Surfs, but after it thaws, my Quagsire is completely safe to take down the rest of Byron's team with Surfs. Nice easy gym battle. Next, we've got a lot of Team Galactic stuff to do before we can get to our next gym fight up in Snowpoint, but thankfully, these Galactic admin fights aren't very difficult. We then got a bit of a walk to Snowpoint City itself, but that doesn't prove to be too much of an issue because it's mostly just long straight paths which are easy enough to navigate. On the way, I even catch an ultra powerful Pokemon, a Sneasel I named BMX. Sneasel is probably the best ice type in the game and a really great find. I also decide to go grab a couple more encounters now I have access to Surf, but the only notable Pokemon I catch is a Shellos I named Apple. Then, by using my Word document speech trick, I'm able to make it through a difficult gym puzzle, meaning it's time for our 7th gym fight of the run. Thankfully, this is another nice easy one, as Candace's Pokemon all go down to flamethrowers. That was surprisingly simple. Ice types are kind of really bad, aren't they? Unfortunately, while that was a super simple gym battle, I now have one of the hardest challenges in the game to beat, and this time it's not maths. After making my way up Mount Cornet, which takes forever, I have to take down Mars and Jupiter in a double battle, and then, without changing up my team at all, I have to take down Cyrus immediately after. This is going to be extremely difficult because keeping track of this double battle while not being able to see is going to be nearly impossible. Fingers crossed luck's on my side then, let's go take down Team Galactic. So Mars and Jupiter start with both of their Bronzors, while I start with Question Mark, while Barry starts with Munchlax. A single flamethrower fails to take down one of the metal plates, meaning my horse does have to take a rock slide. That might have been one of the weakest super effective attacks I've ever seen. A second flamethrower then takes down one of the Bronzors before my horse is hit by a Confuse Ray. Then the Stunk Tank comes out, and I've already lost track of this fight because I didn't know what Jupiter would send out after her Bronzor fell. Because of this, I decide to just keep it simple and go through another flamethrower, which does decent damage into the skunk. A Poison Jab then does massive damage in retaliation, while Munchlax goes through a Screech. While I didn't hear the sound effect of Poison Jab playing, because this game sometimes doesn't play sound effects through attacks, I do now know my horse is very close to death because of the incessant beeping in my ears. Because of this, I switch into Neo, who takes another Poison Jab and Exosensory on the switch. On the following turn, an Aerial Ace fails to bring down the Skunk Tank, and then my bird takes 2 attacks that really should have KO'd him. It's amusing watching this fight back because I had no idea how close I just came to losing another bird. Thankfully, the near-death beeping still alerts me to the fact I need to switch again, so I switch into Pog. On the switch, Pog gets confused, but luckily doesn't take any damage. Only problem is now I'm worried about being hit by a 4 times effective Giga Drain from Golbat, so I decide to switch into Nope, is also 4 times weak to grass. Okay, don't question that logic. At the very least, Nope gets in basically damage 3. A Surf from Nope then takes down Bronzor and Skuntank. Up next is Golbat and Purugly. I'm once again worried about Giga Drain, so I switch into Able, and Staraptor one-shots the Purugly with a close combat. That just leaves both of the Galactic admins' bats, so I get off a flamethrower into one of them for good damage before taking 2 nasty air cutters. A second flamethrower does take out the first Golbat, but scarily, the second survives and lands another air cutter that leaves my monkey stupidly low. I did just get very lucky though, because unknowingly I took down the Golbat with Giga Drain, meaning I'm actually completely safe to switch into Pog as the second Golbat goes down to a Stomp. I'll be honest, I had no idea what was going on throughout most of that fight, and I got incredibly lucky to get through that with no deaths. Up next is Cyrus though, and this fight is going to be just as difficult, if not more so. So Cyrus starts with his hat-wearing bird, Haunch Crow, while I start with Question Mark. I immediately switch into Pog, who takes a critical hit Drill Peck. Pog then takes a massive amount from a Steel Wing, which I assumed would do a lot less if I'm honest. At the very least, Pog is able to land a Rock Throw. On the following turn, I'm actually surprised Pog didn't go down here, but for some reason, Cyrus heals with a Super Potion with just under 50% of Haunch Crow's HP remaining. Thinking about it, why does Cyrus have a Super Potion at this point in the game? Anyway, Cyrus's strange heal allows Pog to get off another Rock Throw, bringing the bird into the red before going down to a second Drill Peck. Rest in peace, Pog. With Pog down, I can send in Beep, who gets hit with a pointless embargo before taking down the bird with another Rock Throw. Next is Gyarados, who I really don't have a counter for. Because of this, I decide to get off an Intimidate by switching into Neo. Neo is then able to spam Aerial Aces to bring the Gyarados into the red before falling to an Ice Fang. Rest in peace, Neo. I'll add you to my ever-growing list of dead birds. I'm pretty confident that Neo left Gyarados super low, so I'm sure I'm safe to send in Question Mark and then finish off the Gyarados with a Flamethrower. Luckily, I'm correct in my guesses, so the Gyarados thaws. Next is Weavile, and I'm not sure if I'm against Weavile or Crobat here. Either way, a Flamethrower should still do good damage, so I stay in and tank a really strong Night Slash before getting off a Flamethrower that surprisingly doesn't KO. I thought Weaviles were meant to be glass cannons. Unfortunately, Weavile's attack did just enough to not put my horse into the red, meaning I have no idea that I'm in danger here. That means I don't know that I need to switch out, and unfortunately that cost me my Question Mark. Rest in peace, Rampadash, you were taken from us too soon. With Question Mark down, I am able to send in Able, who KOs the Weavile with a Flamethrower. That just leaves Cyrus's last Pokemon, Crobat. I've still got Beep at full HP, so I should be in a good position to win this. I immediately switch and take an Air Slash before being flinched by a Bite. Another Air Slash then brings my boulder to below half before Beep finally lands a Rock Throw that does less than half. Okay, looks like I'm going to lose another one of my Pokemon here, especially because Beep is confused on the following turn and hurts herself in confusion. Looks like this is the end of Beep then, as a critical hit Cross Poison brings him into the red, but Beep says not today and lands a critical hit Rock Throw for the KO. Beep, you absolute legend, you really should have gone down there at the end, but you took the odds and you wiped your ass with them. What an MVP. With that, Galactic is taken down, and it only took half of my team. Thankfully, even with those losses, we've only got one more gym battle to deal with, Thulkner and his electric types. Normally this fight would be a complete sweep with Beep, but Thulkner actually has an Octillery in Diamond, meaning I do have to grab one more encounter before our last gym battle. In the Trophy Garden, I'm able to find a Roselia I name Zoop, and then with the shiny stone I find in the Iron Island, I'm able to evolve Zoop into a powerful Roserade. With Roserade, Thulkner proves to be no issue, as Beep is able to one-shot Raichu, Octillery falls to a Giga Drain, and then Thulkner's last 2 Pokemon fall to Earthquakes. Easy. Thulkner is always such a pushover, and with that, we've won all 8 gym badges. Now all that remains is Victory Road and the Pokemon League. This Victory Road is surprisingly easy, probably because I can make it through this cave in my sleep, as I know it so well. That means it's time for our final challenge, the Pokemon League and Champion. This is going to be a really tough gauntlet, because once I walk through those doors, the blindfold isn't coming off until either I've won or all my Pokemon are dead. So let's go end this. Remember to leave a like to wish me luck, I'm gonna need it. The first 2 members of this Elite Four are actually completely free, 3 as I'm able to use Abel and Voop to completely sweep Aaron and Bertha. Good start, but now my 3 ride is over. That's because up next is Flint, and because Flint doesn't just have 5 fire types, I can't just spam Surf to win. I should still be able to push through though. So Flint starts with Rampadash and I start with Nope. Rampadash is able to get off a bounce that leaves me very confused before Nope one-shots with an Earthquake. Second is Infernape, so after taking an Earthquake, a single critical hit Waterfall is enough for another KO. Third is Lopunny, and while I guessed that I was facing Infernape, I'm not actually sure what I'm fighting here. I decide Nope is probably low enough to where I shouldn't risk another hit, so I switch out into Apple. For some reason, none of my sound effects for Lopunny's attacks are working, meaning I'm very confused at what's actually happening here. Because of this, I decide my safest bet is just to spam Surfs and keep Apple healthy with Recovers until eventually the rabbit thaws. Fourth for Flint is Drift Blimp, but before I can hit it with the Surf, Flint immediately goes through a Baton Pass, which means Surf goes into Steelix and gets the one-shot. Then the Blimp comes back out, and this thing is a real pain. I decide that spamming my strongest move and just hoping it lands is my best bet, so I switch into Abel, and eventually a couple of flamethrowers land and the Drift Blimp goes down. I'll be completely honest with you guys, I really didn't know what was happening during a lot of that fight, but we still made it through. That just leaves Lucian for this Elite Four, and he's a very difficult fight. Thankfully, BMX is a pretty good counter to Lucian's team, as he's able to start the fight with a Night Slash that one-shots the Mr. Mime. Now, I don't know what's going to get sent out here next, because I think Lucian will see the KO with both Medicham and Alakazam. Because of this, I decide to play it safe and switch into Abby, who takes a Drain Punch, which lets me know I'm fighting Medicham. Medicham actually survives an Aerial Ace, meaning my bird does have to take a Fire Punch, but then a second Aerial Ace is able to KO. Next is Alakazam, and while I'm not exactly sure what Lucian just sent out, I know there's pretty good odds BMX can handle it. Because of this, I decide to switch in, and luckily I switch in on a Psychic. BMX can then one-shot with a Night Slash. Next is Bronzong, and I don't want to risk taking an Earthquake here, so I switch into Apple. Now here's where I make a pretty massive mistake. I completely forgot Bronzong has Calm Mind, meaning I really don't realize the danger I'm in as I start spamming Surfs. My only saving grace is that for some reason the Bronzong decides it wants to go through a Gyro Ball despite having a powered up Psychic. Eventually I decide Apple isn't working because for some reason 800 Surfs don't seem to have gotten the KO. I decide Abby should be able to handle the Bell pretty well, but I play it safe by putting the Bell to sleep with Nope before switching her in. Unfortunately, my monkey does less than I'm expecting with a Flamethrower. Shouldn't be a problem though, because a couple more Flamethrowers should take out the Bell, unless it wakes up and lands a Psychic that has been boosted by Calm Minds. Rest in peace Abel, that one's completely on me. Thankfully BMX is able to come in and finish off the Bronzong with Night Slash, and then take down Lucian's last Pokemon with another Night Slash, but losing one of my best Pokemon right before the hardest fight in the game really hurts. There's no turning back now though, we're down to the final fight of this run. It's time to challenge Cynthia, all or nothing. Let's see if my remaining Pokemon have what it takes. So Cynthia starts with Spiritomb and I start with Nope. Nope is able to put the Spiritomb to sleep with Yawns, but thanks to a Thor Restore, can't get the KO before I'm forced to switch out into Apple. What's worse, as I switch, Spiritomb is still awake, meaning Abby has to take another hit before finally finishing off the Ghost. Not a great start to this fight. Second is Roserade, and I'm expecting Abby to take this thing down with no issues. Unfortunately, before Abby can get the KO, she has to take 2 really hard energy balls. Right, that's 2 of Cynthia's Pokemon down, but I'm taking way more damage than I can really afford to take. This fight just goes from bad to worse though, as up next is Milotic. I knew that either Milotic or Gastrodon would be sent out here, so I'm expecting no problems for Voop. I must have underestimated how tanky Milotic is though, because it's able to take Giga Drains like it's nothing, and then hit back with stupidly hard Ice Beams. Even with the heals from Giga Drains, Voop can't finish off the Milotic, and I lose another one of my Pokemon. I'm hoping that BMX will come in and finish the Milotic off with a Night Slash, but annoyingly, Cynthia yet again heals with a full Restore. That's not great, but I think I have a way to come back slightly in this fight. I'm like 90% sure Milotic will go through a Water move here, so I switch into Nope to get the heal off of Water Absorb. I then go through a Yawn spawn to put the annoying sea serpent to sleep as it sets up an aqua ring. I then start spamming earthquakes, and after a while the Milotic still isn't dead, so I switch into Abby. Surely a close combat will finish off the overly large eel after all those earthquakes? Well, annoyingly no. But the Milotic stays sleeping, meaning there's no way a second close combat doesn't finally finish off the Milotic, right? Well, apparently Abby has an attack IV of 2, meaning the Milotic survives and takes down another one of my Pokemon. It's looking like the end at this point. BMX is able to come in and finally take down the Milotic with a Night Slash, but with only 2 of my Pokemon remaining, I'm not seeing a lot of hope of getting through this. Lucario is up next, so I switch into Apple, who's able to stay alive for a while thanks to Recover, but eventually Aurosthea crits and takes down my Gastrodon. All that leaves then is BMX, and unsurprisingly, it's a quick end to this battle and the run. Well, looks like we fell at the final hurdle. Honestly, even with Infernape, that was always going to be a tough final fight, and I just don't think I had the strongest team going into this Elite Four, and playing blind really made it hard to keep up with what was happening. That was still really fun though, and I hope you guys enjoyed my attempt at beating this game blindfolded. Remember to leave a like if you did, and subscribe so you never miss a video, and if you really want to go out of your way to support a smaller creator, remember to become a member. Thanks so much for watching, I'll see you all next time.